This is a Together Adventure podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Screen, a Together Adventure podcast where we'll dive deep into the world of tabletop role-playing games, exploring rules, sharing experiences, and spreading the joy of collaborative storytelling. I am your host, Scott McArdle, and today is the first of many episodes where I'm joined by people working within the gaming sector and creative industries. This interview took place at PAX Aus 2025, where I was joined by the Ravens of the Ravensridge Emporium, Jessie, Brandon, and Nicholas. These three, alongside Nicholas's wife Kari, run one of my absolute favourite shops, where you can not only buy dice and other bespoke gaming accessories, but also a variety of highly regarded tabletop role-playing games like Cartograph and In the Shadow of Glory. You can find them at theravensridgeemporium.com, but for now, sit back and enjoy this insight into the world of indie gaming and running a nerdy business with your best friends. Please tell us who you are and where listeners can find your work.
I am Jessie Lee, one of the Ravens of the Ravensridge Emporium. We make a lot of games, so you can find us at theravensridgeemporium.com, at your local conventions in Australia, all over the place.
You can also find us on like Instagram and Blue Sky, and we've got a Discord server if you want to get a bit more hands-on with our games. Am I missing anywhere? We're on TikTok as well.
Good old TikTok.
Good old TikTok.
And there are three of you? Three Ravens?
There are actually four Ravens.
Four. So who's sitting here? We've got Jessie.
We have Nicholas.
And I'm Brandon.
Incredible. And who's our fourth that we're missing?
Our fourth is my wife, Kari. Does a lot of work with web copy and stuff for us and a lot of our email marketing.
Yeah, beautiful. Please tell us, how did you first discover tabletop gaming?
So I had a bunch of nerdy friends, and I hadn't had many nerdy friends before. I had like smart friends, book friends, but none that were like really into tabletop role-playing games and Star Wars and all those. So I met this group and they were like, we play Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, what is that? And they were like, okay, we're going to sit you down. You're going to watch this episode of Community. And that will answer all of the questions you have. And it certainly did not. It made me more confused. But we launched straight into a game after that. And they were like, just quickly whip up a character. It doesn't matter. Just get straight into it. My character was a sassy, what was she? She was a tiefling sorcerer. And she was fantastic. And I just found so much almost inner peace being able to play a character where I felt safe and I didn't have to try and impress everyone all the time, and I can explore what it means to be creative and artistic and have a different personality through the lens of a different character. And that character lived for a little while, and then I ended up moving and I joined another Dungeons and Dragons campaign where I played more characters, and I felt that was almost better than therapy for me. It helped me feel so comfortable, and it just built a lot of creativity within me comfortably. And then my husband and his best friend, Nicholas and Brandon, in this little chat, they started getting into making tabletop role-playing games. And I was like, hey guys, can I make tabletop role-playing games? And then we started exploring like Dread, Microscope, all of these amazing games that don't get enough representation because Dungeons and Dragons has such a clutch on everybody's life.
It was kind of weird, actually. Maybe about, I want to say close to 18, 20 years ago. I was in like secondary school, like year 7 or 8. And a friend of mine brought in this game. It was actually just on an Excel spreadsheet. And it was a game that his brother had made. I had no idea what was going on. And we were sitting down in like the school library, and we picked a spot on a map, and we were just created these people, and he just told us like, okay, what do you do? And we just started to like ask questions, and he'd like flick through his like Excel spreadsheet and give us an answer about like what we found, or like, we'd go and explore like a new part of the world, and we'd just find these things. And I think my character got eaten by like big rabbits or something like that. So that was my first introduction to role-playing games. And I was like, what is this? This is so strange. Yeah.
Someone's jank Excel spreadsheet is such a great intro to tabletop gaming.
It was weird, yeah.
It's where they all begin.
It's where they all begin, yeah. I loved it. I was so enamored with that. But you know, about a year later, that same friend brought in essentially D&D, like the red box, and same library. We started playing a bit of D&D. There wasn't much. I think we got like maybe a half a session here or there. So I didn't really get to experience it too much until pretty much all the way up until like my undergraduate. And I wanted to really like run a game. Brandon had been like running some games with some friends before that, and I looked into Dread effectively because I wanted something a bit more simple to sort of start with rather than D&D. And yeah, it was just all from there.
I got into role-playing games when I was probably about 12 years old or something like that. And at the time, my uncle was living at home with my dad. And so he was around the place a lot, and he was a huge nerd. And my dad was like a carpenter who was like not at all ingrained in nerd communities or anything like that. So up until that point, I had no exposure to nerd culture really, until my uncle moved in, and he was like, he'd been playing D&D for many, many years, and he'd been playing board games and war games and like Magic the Gathering and all that kind of stuff. And so he first showed me Magic the Gathering, and I've talked to him since then, and he was like, I wanted to see if you were actually a nerd first.
Yeah.
And so we like played Magic the Gathering, and then like I remember every day after school, I would come home and Craig, my uncle, would be in the background and be like, we have to play some Magic. I want to play Magic right now. And we'd play like all the way through dinner, through the night. And so he understood pretty quickly that I was a nerd. And so he decided to run some AD&D for me and my buddies from school. And we ran through like I think it was an old module, and I think it was based around a pyramid in a desert.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty common, popular one. And it was freaking awesome. It was so good. And I just absolutely got hooked playing that. And it was the same situation every night. I'd come home and be like, hey, can I get my buddies around? Can we play some D&D? And he'd be like, let me prep a session first, bud. But yeah, that actually so hooked its talons in me, and ever since then, been playing heaps of role-playing games. Nicholas and I always run games nowadays, and Jessie's always involved playing games too, and we just don't stop now. We're just playing games and making games all the time.
This is not a pre-prepared question. Do you guys have time for home games still, amongst everything you do?
We're definitely trying to make time for it. So Nicholas lives in Tasmania, so we don't actually get a chance to see each other in the flesh very often. But we have a group that we play with where we have a 12 session roughly limit, where we have one person GM and they pick a new system and we all play online. And so they're like really small campaigns. And then after that campaign runs its course, a new person elects the GM and they pick a new system. And so we pretty consistently do that like every fortnight, something like that, we're very lucky.
God, as a former DM, that is pure democracy. I'm very jealous. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Run me through how the Ravensridge Emporium started.
Oh, do you want to take that one, Jessie? That's in your wheelhouse.
Oh my goodness.
Wearing the beanie. Wearing the beanie.
The
repping.
branded logo beanie. It was 2018 and it was Christmas. And Brandon was like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I like hobbies. Get me some more hobbies before I got too many hobbies. And I looked at some just people showing off dice on Instagram. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to make dice. And then lo and behold, that Christmas, I got a dice making kit, which was beautiful. And I started making it. I was like, oh no, I can't stop. What do I do? Get me off this train. And then I started making dice a ton. And it was really Brandon that pushed me to turn this into a bit of a business, because beforehand I was like, ha ha ha, this is fun. You have some dice and you have some dice. And then Brandon was like, why don't you like put this on Instagram? Like, let's start a little Instagram. We can show people. I was like, oh, I don't know. And then we did. And we quickly whipped up our infamous logo in 30 seconds.
Oh, such a quick logo bake. We put no thought into it.
Iconic. The crow with the dice in the mouth is like quintessential Australiana.
True.
Yeah, and we just built it from there. I started like talking to dice goblins online because they were like, I like the dice you make. And I was like, you like dice also? I also like dice. And that kind of built a family. And then we all became friends. And then the business kept growing. And I'm just so grateful for how many people have supported us, because I thought this would be a silly, haha, little business time, but it is not that anymore.
My first exposure to the company was seeing dice online, and I have a couple of different pairs of your dice that I love. The
if you listen to the pod as we go on in our D&D actual play, The Lost Crown, you'll hear the constant referencing from when I get the Pedro dice onwards. No, but they are incredible, and the dice you make are really, really beautiful, and they're a mix of like being very well crafted and very light, which I like. I don't love anything that's too heavy to roll myself. Also, like for like not damaging my table and stuff like that. Yeah. I find them really beautifully crafted. They're amongst my top sets that I have, and I have a lot of them.
That is so lovely.
But it's grown from there now. And not only do you make up incredible accessories, there's the earrings, the necklaces, like a whole range of beautiful stuff. I saw the plushies down there as well. My wife really wants one of the ravens. We'll go and get that. But now you're branching beyond that into making TTRPGs too. And so from when you made dice and that became kind of blew up and became really big, how did we get into that next phase of the Ravensridge?
Yeah. I'll drop one word. Nicholas.
Yeah.
I think back in, it was 2019, I think. I was sort of undergoing a big like shift in my professional career. I was taking up teaching, and I needed something that was a bit like, help me to escape, I suppose, a little bit from my day-to-day job. And also I had also moved quite far away from all of my friends. So I didn't have that connection anymore to play like, Dungeons and Dragons or Dread or any of our other systems. So I wanted to make something that I could play by myself. And I got quite inspired by other solo RPGs at that time, like 1000-Year-Old Vampire and such. So I started to dabble.
Have only discovered that game today. Like was at a stall and was like drawn to this beautiful gold embossed cover.
Isn't it a gorgeous book?
Stunning. But like so funny that you mentioned that, like as it's something that's only coming to my circle today.
Yeah, wow.
Well, it's I think still one of my favorite journaling solo roleplay games still. It just it evokes its themes so well, and its mechanics are very subtle that pull you into taking on that role as a vampire. I was very taken with it, and I had never played like a solo game before that, and that's really what inspired me to start making some games. So I started making Grimoire, which was very inspired by 1000-Year-Old Vampire. Similar idea with the prompts. It was sort of like this 3-tier system, but you're taking on the role of a wizard, and you're building out a sort of a grimoire. So you're making these spells and everything with the idea that you can port them to other games. And throughout that process, I was talking a lot to Brandon about it. He was helping me play test it. We're having discussions about like what the game is and what it could be and everything like that. And I think, about the same time or close to when Grimoire was finished, right? You started working on something. I'm not sure what the timeline was.
I think
right?
it was like during the development, you encouraged me to join a game jam. And that's when we made Encyclopedia Botanica together.
Yes.
So it was there's a game jam, if you're unfamiliar. It's like the premise where you have like a set amount of time to like bash out and create an entire game in usually a small period of time. They're very popular in like video games. You get like 48 hours and you need to make a whole video game. But in the TTRPG space, they have one called the one-page RPG Jam. And this is actually where like Honey Heist came from. So the idea is you got one page and you need to make a whole role-playing game on it. And so I was like, man, it's so cool that you're making this role-playing game, Nick. And at the same time, he was encouraging me to explore solo games. And he was like, why don't you just try making one? Well, let's do it together. And so we jumped into this game jam and made a little game called Encyclopedia Botanica together, which was about like creating a slapstick encyclopedia about a planet that neither of the two people that are writing the encyclopedia knew anything about. So it was a really funny little just like stupid game, but it was pretty fun. And then like seeing Nick get so into like making his game Grimoire, it sort of sparked me to start exploring solo games more. And then like that's when Cartograph sort of started getting developed. I think it was just after you probably released Grimoire that I was like, I want to give this a go too. So it's definitely a lot of thanks to Nick to really get me into, encouraging me to get into like game development and stuff. And from there, we've just sort of like, we haven't stopped developing games. In fact, Nicholas and I, before we even became business partners, we'd known each other since we were kids. And we had always been making games together. A lot of like video games and like silly little games and card games and stuff. But we'd always sort of been making games together and been like, one day we can turn this into a business and like make games together. And then it kind of serendipitously happened where we were in the role-playing scene. Nicholas and I both loved role-playing. And, Ravensridge in the dice realm was growing. And we're like, maybe we can use this as a platform to make role-playing games too. And now here we are with like 12 games under our belt or something.
Yeah, amazing. And I I think that's such a beautiful. I think the three of you have really told your stories beautifully well. Like they're now all intermixing. We've got the origin story on this.
Yeah.
And it brings us to our next question really well. You've released a real variety of games now. The ones that I'm most familiar with is obviously the wildly popular Cartograph, which is just everywhere at the moment, and rightfully being nominated for awards and showcases and like
Well, thank you.
amazing, so deserved. In the Shadow of Glory, which I mentioned off mic, we're in the middle of recording that at the moment with two of our players, which is very, very exciting, and they're loving that. Caught in the Rain as well, which my wife saw today actually, and was like, we need to play that one next. Why haven't we played that one? And she's right, we do need to play that one. Where do you start when making a game? Like, does the idea kind of spontaneously appear? Do you sit down and brainstorm and go like, this is what we've done so far? Where is the gap in what we're doing? What is the genre we're exploring? Or do you just kind of bolt upright out of bed and go, what day is it? Why, it's Christmas Day. Like, how do you come up with that initial idea?
Wait, you should tell your story about how you literally bolted up out of bed to announce Cartograph.
I knew it.
I think I literally did, didn't I?
Yeah, it was like 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah, and I think I still have the note on my phone, and I think it's about like 10 intelligible words and then some sentences that don't make sense, and it's like, map making dice on a page, question mark.
So is that how it always works, or is it?
We've had to really like work on how we operate as a team now, because it was Jessie and I for a long while doing Ravensridge, and then when we sort of moved into the role-playing space, then Nicholas and his wife sort of joined on board with us. And before that, Nicholas and I were still making a lot of games together. But it was like that where we came together and we're all like, we want to make this a thing that can support us and make it grow and all that kind of stuff. We really had to sit down and think about what our process was going to be, because beforehand it was very much a serendipitous, like with bolt upright. I mean, I don't know about you, Nick, but we would like think of ideas and we would just sort of develop them at a whim. We wouldn't really think about what is the gap in our catalog and like what sort of game is going to work well. We were just like, I want to make a game about this. Yeah. And we would sit up and make it. But now it's kind of changed a bit. We've kind of realized we need to actually sort of be a bit more structured in the way we think about our like pipeline. So now we've kind of fallen into a cadence of we'll plan about 2 years ahead, and we'll sort of think, okay, I have this really cool idea. I want to make a game, and it still comes from that origin. We bolted up right in bed and thought about this cool idea. But now I'm like, I think this would be really cool if we did it like this. We made like a cool, 100-page book, and that's got all these art pieces, or we want to make it with some board game components or whatever it is. But we bring that idea and see where it fits in our like 2-year scheme, because we want to try and crowdfund things so that we can afford the print runs and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's become a bit more like boring business style nowadays, where we're like planning stuff out. But beforehand, it was definitely a lot more random, serendipitous. I don't know, a bit different from your end? Or?
Well, it's a bit the same. I think if we maybe zoom in a little bit and look at like where those ideas come from and how we build a game, I think initially it started off, and it's sometimes still, we got that, upright in the bed, have this genius idea, sitting on the toilet, and you're just like, aha, that's it. That's how I do this. But it's also, I think, changed as we make more and more games. I think we've maybe matured a little bit more. So for instance, like with Grimoire, that started off very like, sudden sort of idea. I just come off the back of playing some of these solo role-playing games. I'm like, I think I could do this, right? And so they emulate some of those games a little bit more. Whereas like with Caught in the Rain, my most recent one, that design it came out of me being engaged in the solo RPG community and thinking, I want to challenge with a design. I want to like grow as a designer. So I'm going to make a game that is a mystery game for solo players. So I came at that from a very intentional point. So I think it's changed now. I think we're sort of doing a lot more of that intentional kind of points now. Back to what Brandon was saying about the business, we're like, we have a gap here in our product range. And we also have this idea that we've had for a little while. Can we bring those together to fill that need while also sating like our desire for creativity?
I also find it really interesting that you've become, I think, entrepreneurs in the solo gaming TTRPG area in Australia in particular. You're one of the first things that comes up when you do Google it and go looking for it. And I know that there are lots out there, but I also find it interesting. One of my questions was about like, why did you head in this direction? And it was interesting hearing that you had moved and had that disconnect. And I think that that's such a beautiful and resonating story and reason to go into it that would resonate with people who would be playing these games, rather than going, we're going to do this because there's like a section of the industry that it's lacking in and identify that. Whereas it's kind of beautiful that you've gone, I wanted to play these games and I was isolated, and so I made the game I wanted to play, and now other people are being attracted to that and pulling to that. And even I was talking when we started doing In the Shadow of Glory of being like, what I love about this game is that if you don't have the time to get together every week or get together in person, you can do this over email.
Yeah.
And then you could be at work and a lovely little email pops in that you go, I get to go home tonight and play a little character in email and write an email. Like, I just think that that is such a beautiful and brilliant thing that I know so many gamers who would be drawn to that on top of other gaming. And it's really heartening to know that the reason that it exists is because of the reason people are actually playing, rather than like targeting that specifically, which is fine. That's the industry that we're in. That's capitalism. That's the system there.
That's right.
But the origins, I think, match how potently beautiful that this can be and how much these games can mean to people, which I think resonates really, really beautifully with me, and is lovely to like hear that from your own stories.
Oh, thank you.
It's gonna
That's
make
so
me cry. It's so sweet.
Oh, I'll get you. It's coming up. No. Do you have a manifesto or like criteria when you are making these games, going into sort of structure that you follow, that you like, there are certain boxes that need to be ticked as you are making it? Now that you've done 12 of them, now, did you have a structure that you go for, a template?
I feel like we have criteria. Like, I think we have a pretty high standard of like product. I think we really want to make like the graphic design and like the visual appeal of our games to be like as high quality as we are capable of producing. I think that's been really important to us. And also in like in the manufacturers that we go with and all that kind of stuff, to make the product just like look as nice as it can. So that's like, I feel like that's a big one for us when we're like going into that part of the game design. We really want it to like look really nice. But to the game itself, I think it's really important to us that like the game feels like a game still. Because I think that like some role-playing games, they can sometimes fall into like that trap where it feels more like just like a writing exercise, or you're just sort of like, you know, doing some dialogue and there's no real like systems behind it. And it's not to say that we like crunchy games. We certainly don't make crunchy games, but I think we always try to make games that have like satisfying systems underpinning everything that help both like promote the role play that you're doing, but also give you something to like get engrossed in with the game itself that lets you like think about, oh, you know, like in the Cartograph is a good example where you're doing all that resource management. I think that's a part of the game that people are attracted to beyond the role play, because it kind of it evokes those like board game feels, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, I've got this many dice in my dice pool, so I probably should head to a settlement so that I can get some more dice in my dice pool without expending all of my coin or whatever it is. So I think that's been a big one for us as well.
Challenge and obstacle, like I find it particularly important to put in the game when there is no GM in particular, which is normally the vehicle for obstacle and for challenge, and so players don't just go, I win and I win and I win and I win.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine, but that becomes a writing exercise in a way.
Yeah, totally.
I find like one of the criteria that we have is the game needs to be written in a way that you learn as you're reading, so it's not all over the place. Like you're learning about this one word and then all of a sudden it like disappears, and then you don't hear about it until like 20 pages later and you're like, oh, what was that again? So you have to flick back. Like I like it very, this is what this is. Then you move on to the next thing that links to that thing, and you can almost play the game as you're reading the book. I find that really easy to develop, because I don't like forgetting as I'm reading the book, and then I end up putting the book down. So I think structure is very important, of flow.
The flow of information.
The flow of information, exactly.
I don't really think I have much sort of covered both.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely stepped up in the editing sort of department recently with a lot of our games.
And when you've been doing it for so long and it's an area that you're in, sometimes your structures become just like your instinct, right? Like I've written a lot of plays. And so if someone were to be like, oh, what is your checkboxes for writing theatre? And I'm like, well, I know it when it's good. I know what I'm doing, which is unhelpful to young writers. And especially I teach at universities. And they're like, teach playwriting. I'm like, phew. Buckle up. Because I'm going to teach you to have 12 years experience. No, I'm better than Notre Dame. I am better than that when I'm in class. They know that. A lot of your games shirk the standard dice mechanics or add other mechanics for alternatives, which I love. What led you to this decision to branch away from using standard dice as a mechanic, which a lot of the classic TTRPGs will fall into?
My first game I just made with cards for a few reasons. So it was very like heavily inspired by Thousand Year Old Vampire initially, right? It was just that idea of going through these prompts. But I wanted, like what Brandon said before, the reason why we sort of went for this, maybe more of this card approach or this alternative approach rather than just always dice, was that we wanted, or at least at that time, I wanted something that was a bit more able to be gamified in an interesting way. Because I was making this for myself, I wanted something that I found interesting, something that I could think about almost strategically from a game lens, in addition to the narrative. And I thought a playing deck, just a standard deck of cards, would give me, I guess, that extra dimension to play with, the fact that it has like a memory compared to dice. It's not just a flat roll and you get a chance. You're sort of changing what the chances are as you're drawing cards. And it just sort of, it just fit really well with what Grimoire was trying to do, building card sets, remembering what they're in there. And there's also the ever encroaching jokers. So they were sort of gently sort of push you towards the end of the game, and they're more likely to come up as the card deck thins out. So it was just a really elegant solution to what I thought would be an interesting game for me, rather than just rolling dice to sort of generate these prompts. And then from there, I think as we just matured as game designers and explored it a little bit more, we started to see that there's actually a lot more dimensions to playing cards, and it just, I don't know, we sort of stuck to it. What do you think, Brandon? Like, was there anything for you with Cartograph about that?
It was definitely, I think I pretty much ripped that idea out of Grimoire when I saw it for Cartograph, because I was like, damn, that's really clever. Like specifically the Joker thing and the deck thinning out, it was a really nice way to bring that end to the game, which I think is important in solo games particularly as well, because if you have a game that's like a more traditional role-playing game that's really, really open-ended, but it's solo, like you don't have those other people to help collaborate on the story, I think it's far more important to have that like decided end where you can close out the story, because if it drags on, I feel like you're way more likely to just be like, I don't have the energy for this now, like, but if you've got that end for the game, like in Grimoire, when you either like perish or you finish the number of spells, I think it was, that you needed to do for your Grimoire, or in Cartograph, when you manage to finish the coastline and all the locations, it's a lot more satisfying because you can close out that experience and you can finish it. And the Jokers being in a deck as a way to sort of bring the game to an escalating end is a really lovely mechanic. And yeah, it's just such a fun tool to use. And as we've grown as game designers, it's been really exciting to explore different avenues for like generating skill tests and all that kind of stuff, because like you said, the polyhedral dice set is so quintessential in so many TTRPGs. But it shouldn't be the be all end all. Like so many games do so many wonderful things outside of that scope. And we definitely like exploring in it a lot, I think. And you've used the cards really interestingly in the Shadow of Glory too, for the escalating prompts.
I just thought it was a good way to introduce something except for dice, because dice has been used so often, and I like the idea of you're around the town, you got a cheeky role-playing game in your bag, and then instead of having to carry around these loose dice and you trip and you lose them all, and one goes down the gutter, or no, you got this deck of cards in a sleeve.
A bit more suave.
The suave, you pull it out, entice strangers into a game.
Take all their money, leave them penniless.
Oh, we're swindling, oh no.
It kind of seems funny though that we're like, yeah, we're making all these games without polyhedral sets. Anyway, come buy our D&D polyhedral sets.
You guys don't make cards? I think the phrase, the cards have a memory, which you said, Nicholas, is like one of the most beautifully romantic things that has been said about tabletop role-playing games. I was like, you said that, and I was like, they do have a memory. You've got a new game in development at the moment.
We do.
100 Rats Devour a Tavern.
1,000 rats
1,000 Rats Devour a Tavern.
They devour a city in this one.
Devour a City, but was the original one 100 Rats Devour a Tavern?
Yes.
And now you're developing that even bigger.
Yes.
That's sensational. I love it. I love that it's also like, I presume it is what it says on the cover.
Yes.
I also saw the art for all the rats the other day. Sensational.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
Our artist is so good.
What can you tell us about this game?
Ooh.
We got, how much can we tell?
We got sneak peeks. Wait, I
yeah.
want to drop a little
Yeah,
bit.
go.
We're working with over 8 different artists There's no AI art. We're supporting these small businesses where they are just some of the most talented people. And it was just such a privilege to reach out to this artist I've admired online for so long, just scrolling through their work, being like, one day I'll get to work with them, and reaching out and then being like, hey, that sounds amazing. I'm like, it is amazing. Do you want to draw little rats? And them losing their mind because everybody loves rats.
Yeah, that has been a really cool element of it. So we released a one-page role-playing game as part of that jam that we were like talking about earlier. They do it every year. And so we got together, we actually released 3 games for that jam, but one of them was 100 Rats Devour A Tavern. And that's out, and it's like a little pamphlet game. And that was like, actually started development after we had already started working on 1,000 Rats Devour A City. So we had the idea for 1,000 Rats Devour A City, and we knew that was going to be our next game in our pipeline. And we're like, why don't we do like a little taster game that we can release for this like one-page role-playing game jam? And that's 100 Rats Devour A Tavern. So it takes like obviously the main theme of the bigger game that we're working on and some of the mechanics that we're going to be utilizing in the main game, and just sort of condenses it down. So if you have played 100 Rats Devour A Tavern, you probably already know a couple of little things of what to expect in the main game. But it's definitely probably the biggest game. In fact, it definitely is the biggest game we have worked on ever. We pretty much put all of the profits we got from the Caught in the Rain Kickstarter into the art for this. So we just took everything we had made and we were like, let's try and make this game huge. So it's going to be a role-playing game that has board game elements too. So it's not just going to be a book. It's going to come in a box with like board game components and like a map that you play on, and you know, little rat meeples, and it's going to be 1 player to 4 players. I can tell you that much. Oh, we're just so excited for it. It's going to be awesome.
Q2, Q4 next year. Is there a timeline, or not locking down to that yet?
I reckon it's probably going to be Q4 next year.
That's our running timeline so far.
Yeah.
Christmas Rats.
Yeah, Christmas Rats.
Sensational.
That's right. We really just wanted to tell a story in Ravensridge, because if this is more lore for you if you don't know. The reason we're called the Ravensridge Emporium is because a D&D game that Jessie and I were in, I was the dungeon master and Jessie was one of the players, that we played maybe 7 years ago now or something like that, was set in a homebrew setting of mine called Ravensridge. And it was like a Gothic Victorian, kind of grungy, you know, London-esque, a bit like Blades in the Dark kind of thing.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
When we get to Grey Manor in the D&D campaign, you're going to fucking love it.
Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, so we wanted to play a game, make a game set in that, because I had done so much world building for it. I was like, you know, we're doing these like short form campaigns in our home games now, so I don't often get to bring out like my folio of Ravensridge lore. But that kind of inspired the name for the business and the branding and everything as well. And so now finally we're utilizing all of that lore and we're bringing it into this game. So when you play 1,000 Rats Devour A City, the city you're devouring is Ravensridge.
Is there a shop in Ravensridge called the Ravensridge Emporium?
Oh my God, that is a good idea.
Just to like deeper dig in.
Yeah.
Oh, we should just an offer. Just an improv yes and offer.
Should we add it into the game? Let's go.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Sensational. I'm so excited for that one. That's going to be amazing. Where that'll be a do it on the pod, get a camera out, film the map. Incredible. There's board game elements, cards and dice.
Cards and
involved.
dice.
Amazing. All of the good stuff. Phenomenal. Well, we can't wait. Got some quick time questions. Like you're in a video game, as quick as you can, gut instinct, responding to these guys. There is a special Queenslander question. I'm going to throw in a Tasmanian question too for you.
Oh, so fancy.
All right. So the first one, we'll go around the circle.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
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 Battle maps or theatre of the imagination?
Theatre.
Theatre.
Theatre. What did you just say, Jessie? Theatre of the
Don't worry about it.
Enemies to lovers or friends to enemies?
Oh, enemies to lovers.
Friends to enemies.
Enemies to lovers.
Okay. I'm the friends to enemies.
Ah.
Player or game master?
Player.
Game master.
Game master.
So rare that there's 3 out of at a table of 4 people, 3 game masters.
No, right? Only at PAX.
Romancing companions or petting every dog?
Petting every dog.
Petting every dog.
Petting every dog.
Fantasy or sci-fi?
Fantasy.
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
Aw.
Board games or card games?
Oh no. Some of the no, I can't elaborate. It needs to be quick. Hold on. Come back to me.
Board games.
Card games.
It comes around quick.
Cardboard.
Cardboard sensations at the back of Kmart. Pulling it in.
I need some boxes.
A special Queenslander question for Jessie and Brendan. AFL or NRL?
Neither. Rocket League
Also
tournament.
valid. Rocket League is also
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah, that is like the only thing we watch that is sports related is esports, Rocket Leagues, tournaments.
And my Tasmanian version, AFL team or no AFL team?
That is a loaded question. AFL team, yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
And before I get to my final question for you guys, I want you to hit us up with some of your recommendations, some of your favorite developers, games, streamers, podcasts. Just because we're a podcast doesn't mean you can't recommend others. I know a very favorite podcast of yours that I'm also a fan of as well. Shout them out here. They're legends.
We
Who
will.
should our listeners be following and listening to lock into some of the best content and best games that they can?
Absolutely listen to our friends at the Mimic's Den, running the Tales from the Luckweavers Tavern. It is a phenomenal podcast. We love it, love it, love it. Cloudkill Connor as well is a wonderful content creator in the space. He's so good. As for games, I really love the Australian role-playing scene in the indie developer space is really, really fertile. It's got some incredible game designers here. So the Story Brewers, they are incredible. They made The Good Society and it is a phenomenal game. Ella Lim, she's a solo role-playing game designer from Tasmania actually, and she makes some really, really evocative and emotional and really, really poignant games too. They'll probably be my two picks, I reckon, just off the top of my head.
Not familiar with Ella, but we're playing Fight with Spirit on the podcast coming up.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
That's going to be good.
I think my only addition, I mean, they've all been mentioned, but I would probably add in Croker's RPG. Great newsletter that sort of summarizes up a lot of mostly solo-focused games. Also Australian-based, and has also made their own games. You can usually find them on their itch and their Substack.
Also agree with the fact that Australia has such a beautiful scene for podcasts and Twitch streams and developing role-playing games. We went to an event the other day and it was the award ceremony for the Australian role-playing games. And it was just so beautiful to have this fact said at me to the crowd. And I haven't stopped thinking about it, that in America, there's really big game developers, big tabletop role-playing game developers, board game developers. But in Australia, we don't really have those big companies that just dominate the whole industry. So Australia has all these little guys that are just doing their best, and a lot of people are seeing them here, which is incredible. So like Twitch streams, Let's Roll with Dragons has the most beautiful set that I've walked into. The camera and lighting setup, they're so bubbly and friendly. They use great safety tools. They have snacks provided all the time. And they're just entertaining to watch. They're just fun little quirky guys. And then role-playing games, there's so many of them out there. I don't even know who else I can mention. Their names all escape me. Wait, what am I? Hollow Ponds, yeah. Doing a YouTube channel where they talk about different role-playing games that are coming out in the scene. So if you're like, I want to check out more role-playing games, you don't know where to look, go check out Hollow Ponds on YouTube. He will be covering lots of games that you could look into in the future.
Hexes and Vexes too, that's a great
Hexes
stream.
and Vexes.
We love Hexes and Vexes.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
They're awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool to be nerds and have nerdy friends like yourself included. Where we can just like chat nerd stuff and be the coolest people on the planet.
And totally listen to Together Adventure too. You should totally listen to it.
Yeah, tune in. If you're already listening, listen more.
Exactly.
And our final question is pitch from the heart, where any last things you want to say about why you do what you do, why you love doing what you do. I think everybody in these creative mediums is doing what they're doing because they love it. They have a passion for it. So now's your opportunity to make one last statement from the heart about the Ravensridge Emporium.
For me, I've always loved two things. Well, there's a lot more than that. But when it comes to just like exploring the world, I absolutely love stories. And I really love just seeing how people can represent life and those stories with like games. How do they abstract that? And I think it's really interesting to like take something like that and drill it down to this sort of core essence to evoke the feelings that it does in the real life, to reflect that. Because of this, I think with our games in particular, that's at least what I'm bringing in to it, is to sort of bring in those stories, bring in those game mechanisms. And I think Brandon and Jessie do an excellent job doing that as well. So with the three of us working together, I think a lot of our products really evoke that idea of how we can abstract life and those stories into this really interesting experience to help evoke those feelings. That's what I love about these, and I think our product line does a pretty good job of it.
Games and like stories are like humanity's like oldest art form, basically. That's the thing we've been doing since we've learned how to speak, basically. And so I love that we like get the opportunity to bring those two things together, which I guess they were probably one and the same, you know, way back when. Stories and games were probably there for the same reason. But I think like games offer so much. They're not just there for fun, but obviously fun is a huge part of it, but they can be there for the catharsis or like self-exploration, or, you know, working at your identity, or any of these sort of things, or just like an escape. And I think that's what we really try to do in our games as well. It's just like give you a place where you can explore yourself, you can explore a world in a safe environment, and get some catharsis if you need. Jessie's very good at making cathartic games, I think, particularly out of us three, but yeah.
I like the big, sad, emotional games. Oh, it's funny because I'm such a happy little person that wears a little yellow, and I'm walking around with flowers in my hair. And then when I make games, I'm like, all right, brooding, dark, and emotional. How sad can I make it? I'm going to pick up a dusty old tome here for you guys in this group. Can you see this dusty tome?
Wow, it's so dusty.
Listeners, you're really missing out. There's no tome here. I'm going to blow off the dust and reveal a title that shows my age. Rooster Teeth quote.
It's the second time someone's talked about Rooster Teeth this weekend to me.
And it's going to say, people like grapes. But we're going to rephrase that. We're going to scratch that. We're going to say, people like games. People like games. We've been playing games since the dawn of time, whether they were, say, little chess pieces and trying to outmatch the person, or complex games like the theater of the mind and imagination and D&D. I just think it's such a great way to build on your little human, explore, have fun, meet people. Like, I think D&D, being involved in this world, has made me a better person. Just at my core. I've found beautiful friends through here, and I couldn't love it more. Did I forget to mention why you should buy from Ravensridge? You should buy from Ravensridge.
I think this whole podcast is a real example of why we should buy from these most excellent people. Thank you so much, Jessie, Nicholas, and Brandon, for joining us on Together Adventure, carving out some time at a very busy PAX. You're legends. We really, really appreciate the chat.
Thanks for having us on.
Been a good time.
Thank you so much.